Hi loves, it's Shaaba. Welcome back to another Tuesday, another week, another video. Yes, I have pink hair now. It's a new look, it's brighter than I expected, but we're gonna roll with it until it fades. It's also been a little while since we've done a brain fart video, and so I thought today I would answer one of the most frequently asked for brain fart videos. Would I choose to be brown? Before I do though, let's just give a quick little shout out to today's video sponsor, Pride Counselling. As I'm sure you're aware, Christmas is coming up. It's a pretty tricky time for a lot of LGBT+ people. It certainly is a tricky time for me, especially this year. And if, like me, you want to speak to someone about it, Pride Counselling could be a really great resource for you. Pride Counselling provides private online counselling specifically for LGBT+ people. I have used them a lot this year, and first-hand account, it genuinely really helps. All of the counsellors are LGBT+ friendly, which is really handy because you don't need to have that extra worry about being stigmatised to someone you're being really vulnerable with. And if you don't like your counsellor, you can switch. It's really quick, takes seconds. The counsellors are also licensed, trained and fully accredited with at least 3 years of experience and certification from their state's professional boards. And it's also online, which means you can take your sessions from wherever makes you feel most comfortable. Your bed, your sofa, whatever works for you. And because it's online, it's also more affordable than most in-person counselling. Literally half the cost of my previous therapy. And if you still can't quite afford it, that's absolutely fine. Pride Counselling also have financial aid that you can apply for too. So if you want to find out more or sign up, you can take a look at the link downstairs in the description box, pridecounselling.com/Shaaba, and you'll also get 10% automatically off your first month. It's like Christmas, come early. Alright, now on with the video. Would I choose to be brown? I totally appreciate where this question comes from, but it's really hard to answer, mostly because, like, I wish sliding doors, you've seen the movie Sliding Doors, I wish that sort of thing were real, you know, that we could experience different timelines, but the truth of the matter is, I've never experienced life as a non-brown person, as a white person, right? Because that's what this question is really asking. Would you choose to be white over being a person of colour? Now, if you asked me this like 10 to 12 years ago, would I choose to be brown? My answer would have, without hesitation, have been, hell no. Why would anyone choose to be this colour? I mean, granted, I also have pink hair at the moment, so perhaps my choices are like questionable. But jokes aside, I really hated being brown. It took me a long time to feel comfortable in my own skin, which is a very cliche phrase, but it's so true. And I think more so than sort of like the external racism and bullying and stigma, the biggest issue for me was internalized racism. Like, I definitely had a lot of that inside me. And obviously a lot of this is very personal, right? So like, I'm saying that the internal racism was worse for me, and the reason that I'm saying that is because like even today I still face a lot of racism externally. I'll still like walk places and meet new people and like be curious as to whether they're looking at me funny because I'm a person of colour. I now also do that because I have pink hair. But the only thing that has changed between now and like 10 years ago is I don't have those internal feelings of hatred towards the colour of my skin. So that's why I'm counting it as worse, you know, but personal, everyone is different. I just used to get so embarrassed about it. The tangible factors of culture, like, sure, clothes, food, it was all very different to what I experienced growing up in like a white world, right, in the UK. And you know, when you're a teenager and you're discovering yourself and there are hormones and stuff, like you don't want to be different. You always want to try and fit in. Like, I hated the fact that my name was Shaaba. I hated the fact that my family had a specific smell coming out of the house because of the curries that we cooked. And even when people were pointing it out in a very positive way, you know, like, oh my gosh, you know, like I really love it, it's so different, or wow, your clothes are so beautiful, I think it just made me feel like I was failing at my goal of trying to be one of everyone else. If only we had the wisdom that we do now when we're teenagers, right? But really, beyond the tangible aspects, it was the mentalities and the cultures that I just never gelled with. Like, I couldn't get my head around it. I think the one word that I would use to like encapsulate the negative vibes that I have towards being brown and the culture towards being brown is hypocrisy. I do just find it really superficial and quite two-faced, and I understand, again, not everyone's experience is this way, not all brown people are like that, and I'm sure there are lots of white people out there as well who have this hypocritical mentality within their cultures. But to me, growing up, I saw my friends' worlds and I saw my world, and in my world what I couldn't stand was, it was very do what I say and not what I do, just on all fronts. And in my experience and thinking back to Shaaba 10 years ago, like saying no to being brown would make that the sort of like the negative sides that I feel about Asian culture a lot less likely to happen. Does that make sense? Like racism, for example, right? Like I think a lot of white society today, granted not all white society, but like racism, it's not okay, and you do get called out for being racist, but I just think that like for brown people it's different. In my culture there's so much racism, like, oh no, you can't be with a white person, how dare you even think about it. I just find it double standardy. And beyond just hypocrisy, it's the cultural expectations of things like gender roles and career path. You're a woman, that means you have to have kids. You're a person who is able to work, which means you're gonna be a lawyer or a doctor or an engineer. And I know these are tropes that sound so outdated, and in previous skits, goodness knows why we were ever doing skits online, but it was to laugh about something that was actually really frustrating in an attempt to reclaim it. Just small things like the idea that someone demands respect and deserves respect just because they're a generation older than you. It bugs me. I think it's also really difficult to detangle because a lot of my past and the experiences that I find quite negative have also been rooted, or maybe not rooted, that's the wrong word, but justified with religion. And I understand that religion isn't culture, like religion isn't being brown. So it's tricky. That's a completely different question, a completely different can of worms. Would I have chosen to be religious? I know very clearly what the answer is for that one, whereas being brown's a bit more complicated. So yes, for all of those reasons and all of those negative things that I wish I could escape, I guess a small part of me, it feels bad though. I don't want to say like would rather not be brown, because that's actually not true. Maybe it's not so much a brain fart. I'm pretty clear on where my brain is headed on this one. I would be intrigued to live life as a white person and see if I, notice any differences in how I'm treated and seen. But I guess those are the cases for not being brown. But on the other side of my brain fart, where I've been able to overcome my internal self-hatred, right, towards things that I found uncomfortable or for standing out, which for some reason we're conditioned to think is a bad thing. There are actually so many times where I love being brown. I even, like right now, I love being brown. For one, I never get skin burn, tan burn, sun tans, you know what I mean? I read something online once that was written by a brown person that was like, white people pay good money to be our colour. Like the amount of money that people spend on sunbeds to turn themselves a shade of brown and discriminate against people who are actually brown, like maybe it's just envy. That's a complete digression. I know that the skin burn thingy, the peeling that people get, not having that is a very trivial benefit. But seriously, I love my skin. I think with growing in self-confidence and self-esteem, I no longer feel the need to fit in. And so I can just appreciate and embrace the fact that I'm brown. It's come with a lot of years of self-love and self-learning. And it's not just like the colour of my skin, right? It's the way my skin sits, the fact that I have spots and scars and wibbly bits. And I'm not sure if I should be saying this online. It's a very weird way to look at it, and it's kind of dark, and it absolutely is not my intention. But in a really roundabout way, I kind of profit off of being brown, right? Like I've reclaimed it to the point where it's my power stance. Do you see what I mean? Like I don't have white privilege, right? And I'm sure that because of that, there are a lot of things in my life that I've not been able to do, or places that I've not been able to achieve or reach due to levels of unconscious or perhaps conscious bias. But at the same time, I've made a career out of being the underdog and being a little bit different. I'm brown, I'm bisexual, I'm in a mixed race relationship, and for all of these reasons of being different and stigma and being hated on, that was a really negative thing that I've now shared about, and that sharing has become my career. So like in that way, I owe a lot to being brown. It's not the main reason why I love it. I just felt like it was something that I should address. And I also think it's just really exciting to be different. Like obviously I'm not saying being brown is different, because if you're a brown person within a whole brown community, you're not being very different. But being with Jamie, who is a white person, and integrating with a lot of white society, it's really nice to learn new things and to share new things. Like it keeps life exciting. I love it when things like Eid happens and I'm planning my wedding and I can talk about Mandy, getting henna done, and people are so excited to share in that. The things that, funny enough, 10 years ago I would have hated the idea that people were bringing up, but it's really cool to be able to develop that way as a person. I don't know, I feel like I'm developing. Does that make sense? And now I embrace it. I guess it's just a different mindset, when I don't know the English word for something and have to like describe what a certain vegetable or herb looks like to Jamie because I just don't know how you say it in English. Or when a friend compliments me on how beautiful I look wearing something Asian, like it feels nice now because it's done on my terms. It's not something that I feel like culture is forcing me into, but something that I am willingly undertaking. I don't know if that makes sense at all. So in terms of how I internally think, I absolutely wouldn't choose to be brown. I would not choose to not be brown. There were too many different negatives in that, but I'm happy being brown is what I'm saying. But the one thing that I can't shake and would absolutely choose to not be brown over is in terms of the discrimination, right? Like, I cannot tell you how small it makes someone feel to be stigmatized against or put down or passed over for something when it's so obviously about something that you can't control, like the color of your skin. And thinking about, like, I get shivers down my spine now just talking about it, thinking about people who, because of brown culture or the colour of their skin, get put in really violent situations, particularly by people like authority figures, like police forces that we're supposed to be able to trust. That just makes me very angry. So when I think about things like that, I'm just like, how on earth could I possibly say that I would choose to be brown knowing what people of colour go through? So I do get that, and I do appreciate that that level of harm exists. But actually, when I think about it a bit more, that's less of a question of would I choose to not be brown, or would I choose for society to not be assholes towards people of colour? That's a different ultimatum, to which of course I would say, yes, I would choose for people not to be an asshole. But I don't think that I should be hating on myself and the colour of my skin because other people can't deal with the fact that people are different and they're scared of the unknown. So, would I choose to not be brown if there was a magic wand in the world that could make me white? Ding! No, I would not choose to turn white. I would choose to continue being brown. And I'm sure that the Shaaba in the past, in the present, and in the future, who goes into pubs and hates how people look at her, and the Shaaba who walks on the tube with a backpack and goes, oh crap, what a terrible fashion choice I've made today, or the Shaaba who goes to an airport and just knows that it's going to take an extra 10 minutes because security is of course going to pick on me. All of those versions of Shaaba will not be liking me right now for saying that. But at the same time, I love the colour of my skin. I love how I look. I think I'm beautiful. Brown is beautiful. It took me years to be able to understand that and appreciate that and embrace that, but I have. And I honestly feel like a B-Tech Hannah Montana because I just feel like I can dip in and out of Asian culture and Western culture aspects whenever I choose on my terms. And I think that's exciting and I think that's fun. And again, I know it's very cliche to say, but I wouldn't be me without the experiences of stigma that I have faced. So it may be a cop-out, but yes, I would choose to be brown. And I would choose for society not to hate on people of colour, if I can also put in that request kindly, please and thank you. I hope that makes sense, and I hope that's a satisfactory answer, albeit a little bit contradictory. But what is life if not a brain fart? Do you agree? Do you not? Are there other reasons that you love or not love being the colour of skin that you are? Let's have a little chat downstairs in the comments section. Alright friends, if you enjoyed this video, do give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you'd like to see more, click that little join button to find out more about the Self-Love Club. I'll see you next week with another video, Tuesdays at 7 PM. Be kind and have a great day. Bye!